Okay, so that's given us our initial lease position. Obviously, that tells us where we start off with in a lease. But actually, one of the biggest challenges is something changes in the life of the lease. So, for instance, we need to change payments because we change the contractual terms. We want to extend the life of the lease, change the life of the lease, for instance. We have a concept of revisions built into our model here, where we can change any parameters we need or we want to for a lease. And we may be changing them multiple times through the life of the lease. So there's no restriction on how many times we can change a lease and things like that. We may have to have multiple revisions. So if, for instance, we extend the lease, we need to recalculate all of the asset values and the depreciation value. We need to recalculate the liability and things like that. And we need to calculate the balance sheet adjustments that would occur at the point of that transition as well. So we may have some adjustments to our asset additions, for instance. And this schedule here gives the ability to not only manage those revisions themselves, but also for any lease within my book of leases for my entity, allow me to report on them and also review the entire history of all of the revisions that may have occurred against that lease. And that may be many. And obviously, if we make a change to a lease and 6 months later we're looking at the data and going, well, that data's changed. Why? We can actually come back to this report and go and review that and see all of that detail. So again, we'll be there in a moment to enable ourselves to choose a lease for revision, revise it, and then understand the impacts of the calculations. So here in my department, I've got a number of leases. The lease that we just created there for this webinar, I can see that some of these leases have already been revised. This one hasn't yet, so we'll go and do that. And we can see we're storing information about lease information on those leases. So I will just choose this lease here and make a revision, review the reporting for that lease, and enable myself to recalculate it. I think we can see from there that we've got our different asset types. We can see our different leases in different currencies and things like that. So I haven't clicked on it properly, so it wasn't doing anything. So just going in there and allowing myself to review that specific lease. So and at this stage, I now see, again, I see all of this information that we originally entered. I also see the report by scrolling down. I can see the additional lease information about that lease that we created earlier. So what I'm going to do is at the top of this report, look at, and I'll just again zoom into this report a little bit because it's on this constrained view of my screen. It's not showing me a great deal, so I'll just change the zoom scale on that so we can see things. We can see that we already know the lease initiation dates. We can see the last revision was in fact the original revision. We might want to make a change. For instance, we might want to make a change from the first of some date in January in 2019. We might want to make it be, say, 20 months from there. So we've changed the have we changed? No, we haven't actually changed the, make it, we'll extend it by a couple of months. We've now extended it out to November 2020. That could be out as far as we want. And I'm going to click this button here that's slightly obscured, this new lease revision, and it's going to allow me now to update any of the financial information that we want to against that lease. And again, this will allow me to then go and see that even things like my new depreciation rate that are based on the lease is updated already, because it knows that the term has been changed for the balance of the new lease. It should be picking up the present value of the payments, based on the discount rate based on the discount table at the point of time of the change. Again, I've moved out into the future, so I've made a forecast there of the discount rate that I expect at that point in time, and we clearly need to understand those kinds of things. And again, by having that management, we're taking that pain away from the end users to do that. So we see that coming through now, and we will see that we can review the information that is already there for this lease, and update the payments and the other transactional information against it on our revision. So again, that will be there in a moment. Okay. So there we see at the top, I've scrolled up, we see the original information, and January 29 is month 5 of the original information. We had a 6% financing rate at that point in time. We're making a change. We're now going to, for instance, we'll apply a new payment level of, say, 2,500 per month. We may end up with, say, a different service fee. Again, I'll just spread that across the months. We'll submit that data, and we'll save that data, and we get exactly the same process then to update any new initial costs, etc. In the next screen, which does those one-off amounts exactly the same as we had before, and then we can go review the history of the revisions, and also review the additional balance sheet changes against that. And we'll do that as our final stage, so we'll be finished in a couple of minutes on the demonstration stage before we'll open up. We will still have a few minutes for questions at the end of this, available to us in a moment. So I'll not make too many other changes to the financial data at this point. We'll just recalculate that. Again, I'll calculate it out to the end of the lease so that we can see the impact of those changes when we look at the reporting as well. We do have follow-on reporting that aggregates that by asset class, by lease, by entity, and then aggregates of hierarchies within our entities and total asset classes, etc. And reconciliation reporting that is reading directly from a consolidation model as well. So we get to see our data and compare it to our consolidation. So that is just there. Okay. And we see that again we can input we've got some adjustments already calculated for us. We can just run through, set this calculation, going to do our balance sheet out into the future again. So that might go to 2020, for instance. So that's going to go away and calculate through to the new end of life. in the meantime, I can start having a look at my lease revisions. And what I've got on this report now already is I can see that we've got a total of all revisions view there. I will zoom into that a little bit. And we see that the changes to that have been applied based on our initial lease information combined with our revision for the lease. So our net position is actually the initial information up until the point in time we make the revision, and then the revised data becomes now the actual data for the lease, and we therefore by scrolling back up, the total revisions for all lease we see in those final periods, including the extension in this case was only for a couple of months. We see that final lease information is now extended based on the new lease values, not based on the original revision. And the system automatically therefore processes all of that back to the individual processes. So jumping back to the single lease schedule, we can start to see that again there is an element of balance sheets need to refresh the data on this. We can now start to see that the balance sheet information at the point of that adjustment has now been updated to reflect the fact that there are some balance sheet changes. We can see there that the revision information now runs out to the end of 2020 instead of to November 2020 instead of September 2020, and we could use this schedule again immediately to start running some further revisions. So as we're waiting for that view to return to us, our next stages would be simply to start running some more aggregated reports in terms of the data in the system. Absolutely everything is calculated at the base level of individual leases. It's aggregated to the lease class aggregations and to the asset class, to the asset class and to the entity aggregations as we've defined in whatever dimensions we already have. And it will sit within the framework of existing dimensions, should we have them, with options to restrict or to use alternates should we wish.